The final race to the finish line. We're live at a Midtown polling station.
It's election day in communities across the country. Canada's decision now just hours away. Good evening. 5 weeks of campaigning has come down to this day. There's still a few hours left before the polls close, but by the end of this night, we should know who will form Canada's next government. We'll have more on what voters are saying, but first, CTV's Colton Prale looks at the latest last-minute push from the party leaders.
Early morning enthusiasm as political parties race to the finish line. A fast and furious 5-week campaign wrapping up as Canadians and party leaders make their choice at the polls.
All right, everyone, get out to vote.
It's a moment of let's get swinging.
With the race tighter than ever and only hours until a winner is crowned, the message from party leaders is clear.
Je nous demande à tous.
Give it everything you have left, Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet asked of his team. Party's ability to get out the vote could be the deciding factor in an election where why Canadians are voting varies immensely from party to party.
It almost seems like there's two elections happening right now, two ballot box questions, and it really depends on what your question is, and that's where your vote's going to be.
The Conservatives have had significant momentum to wind down the campaign on a message focused around change. The Liberals have capitalized on concerns about tariffs and Donald Trump, who again inserted himself into the campaign this morning on social media, calling for Canadians to vote for him and become the 51st state.
There's no question that the future of Canada is on the ballot, and leadership is a huge issue in this one as well.
Whoever forms government will have more than just Trump to contend with. Polling shows stark divides in party support by age and location. Finding a way to unite Canadians while the country's sovereignty remains under threat will be just the beginning for the next Prime Minister. Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
And voters have already turned out en masse, a record 7.3 million taking part in advance polls.
And today, many more came out to make their voice heard by casting their ballot. This election, it's often been said, the stakes could not be higher. CTV's Janice Goulding has been speaking with voters today. She joins us live with those details. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Well, we're live right now in Eglinton Lawrence, a seat recently vacated by Liberal Marco Mendocino. The Conservatives have a star candidate running in the area in Karen Stintz, who was a long-serving city councillor for the area and also ran for mayor at one point. So a lot of interest in this race. And as you can probably see behind us, there has been a big turnout so far today. A steady flow of people could be seen heading into this Eglinton Lawrence polling station today.
Like I would say the people show up a pretty good turnout, yeah.
It has been busier than normal based on my experience.
A big turnout from voters with big concerns this election.
The most important, very, very important.
I mean, it feels like a really big election.
There's a lot on the table. It's a very important election, and people just have to get out and vote.
Turnout at advance polls this federal election reached a record high. While it's hard to predict whether any overall records will be broken this election day, especially given recent voter turnout has been trending downward, experts say they are expecting a large number of Canadians to cast their ballots.
This is going to be a big turnout election. Canadians are mobilized. They're very concerned about this election. And that actually makes it a little harder to predict because some of the campaign ground games are better than others. Some of them will be more effective at generating that vote.
A trade war and Canada's relationship to the U.S. are top of mind for many voters today.
Donald Trump, huge. Environment for me is also huge.
At this time, the economy is very crucial.
Well, I think it's an important election, obviously because of what's happening with the United States and making sure that we have kind of one strong voice in Canada that can help negotiate.
Although there are a whole slew of issues voters are voicing concerns about.
The rental is so expensive, the grocery is so expensive.
Healthcare, education, I'm a small business owner, so taxation and policy.
Biggest one is affordability for housing. We've been trying to buy a house for like 5 years now. Can't save up.
Spending's out of control, cost of housing's out of control. I mean, all the things that everybody complains about.
Federal elections are often said to be won and lost in the Greater Toronto Area, but voter apathy has been a real issue here in the past. In fact, 9 of the 10 Ontario ridings with the lowest voter turnout in the last federal election are here in the GTA. Now, to give you some context, fewer than 1 in 2 eligible voters cast their ballots in King Vaughan, Etobicoke North, and Humber River Black Creek in 2021. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. And our election coverage continues later in the newscast with a look at some of the key ridings in Toronto that could help decide the election. That's coming up.
We turn now to the tragedy in Vancouver on Saturday. The city and its Filipino community are struggling to deal with the senselessness of the laws.
11 people were killed and dozens of others injured when a vehicle sped down a crowded street during a festival. CTV's Andrew Johnson reports.
Meters from the spot, lives were forever changed or lost. Hundreds of people have dropped off flowers and messages of support after a vigil where the Filipino community tried to put words to unspeakable violence.
We've lost lives that in such a meaningless tragedy.
We're all grieving for all the Filipinos.
Saturday night, a celebration of Filipino culture was ripped apart by a man in a speeding SUV who plowed through a crowd, killing multiple people and sending more than 30 to hospital.
Everything was in chaos. It's like a war zone, and it's like, you know, I don't know, zombie apocalypse, bodies everywhere.
30-year-old Kaiji Adam Lowe has been charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder. He was grabbed by witnesses before being arrested and appeared to apologize. Vancouver police searched this home believed to be Lowe's residence last night. Officers have had multiple interactions with Lowe involving his mental health. He also lost his brother to murder last year. Alexander Lowe was found dead inside a Vancouver home in January 2024. He'd been stabbed. As we learn more about the accused killer, police and the city are facing new scrutiny over security measures at public festivals.
We could try to secure the city as much as we can, but the underlying root cause is mental health issues. And if we do not get people with significant mental health challenges the help they need, incidents like this, I should say, will continue to happen.
Adam Lowe remains in police custody. He won't appear again in court for another month as this community continues to grieve one of its darkest days. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And Toronto's Filipino community is also hurting. CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us live from the Bathurst and Wilson area with more on the impact here. Scott.
Well, Nathan, this tragic incident happened on the other side of the country, but the shock and the sadness are being felt right across the GTA as local Filipinos try and understand exactly why this happened.
From this bakery in North York.
I can't believe it because it should be like a fun day. We're really sad about what happened.
To a community center in Scarborough.
Pain, actually, and of course concern and grief and something, oh my God, something terrible has happened.
Toronto's Filipino community is struggling to understand Saturday's tragic attack on a festival in Vancouver.
People are connected. The Filipino community has someone there, or a friend, or relatives, whatever. There is a connection.
We were actually shocked. I was really, really shocked as to what happened in Vancouver.
For the organizers of the annual Taste of Manila Festival, which takes place in the Bathurst and Wilson area each August, the incident raises a number of questions.
As an event organizer, what came to my mind was, where did they lack in terms of planning, most especially in terms of safety and security?
Those questions also on the minds of city officials here as Toronto gets set for another summer of street festivals and events.
I will do everything I can as the mayor of Toronto to help keep people safe in this city, whether it's barricades or working with the festival organizers when there's mass gathering. We will keep people safe.
And we're told that the mayor will be taking part in a memorial vigil for the victims of the Vancouver attack being held tomorrow night in Nathan Phillips Square. Organizers of the Taste of Manila Festival say they are confident in the security procedures they have put in place over the years. However, they say they will be reviewing them and adding to them to ensure everyone not only feels safe, but is safe. Reporting live in North York, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. A commemoration was held downtown this afternoon for the National Day of Mourning for workers killed or seriously injured on the job.
We are owed workplaces that make sure that we go home healthy and whole.
Several dozen union members stood and held flags at Larry Sefton Park on Bay Street. The Ontario Federation of Labor is calling for governments to do more to address workplace dangers, both physically and mentally. According to the government, more than 1,000 people were killed at work in 2023, and more than 270,000 were injured badly enough that they couldn't work.
So important that we get justice for injured workers. Justice in the form of a fair compensation system that compensates people for their injuries. And also, we want to mourn for the dead, and our union is in support of the Westray bill, which means that if you kill a worker, you go to jail.
Last year, the provincial government passed a bill proclaiming June 1st Injured Workers' Day.
Still ahead, addressing the backlog in Ontario's courts by adding more judges. The province wants to hurry the process, but critics warn faster isn't necessarily better. Let's take a live look outside on this sunny Monday evening. Blue sky, warm April temperatures. The weather certainly not going to hamper voters here on Election Day. Lindsay Morrison joins us with a look at the current conditions. Yes, there's some wet weather on the way this week, but let's not talk about that right now.
In fact, what we will first talk about is the fact that it's going to be even warmer into the day tomorrow compared to today. But yeah, not bad weather conditions today either. Here's a look at our current temperatures across southern Ontario, in the 20s in many areas, and we managed to climb to 20 degrees in the city of Toronto as well. We do have a bit of an east wind, so that's keeping some lakeshore communities a little chillier at this hour. All is clear, all is calm on the satellite and radar, but look what's waiting in the wings. Low pressure system across northern Ontario, northwestern Ontario, and parts of the U.S. Midwest going to swing through for us tomorrow. But let's talk about the here and now. 18 degrees at this hour at Pearson Airport compared to 11 at the Toronto Islands. Here is your election evening forecast. Lots of sunshine, clear skies as we make our way through these evening hours, and light winds as well. But a bit of a different story for tomorrow. We're going to talk about the risk of thunderstorms at times, especially tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's coming up in your weather forecast. For now, Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. We want to return to our coverage of Canada's vote and a couple of races to watch right here in Toronto.
In the riding of University Rosedale, former Deputy Prime Minister and Liberal incumbent Chrystia Freeland is looking to hold on to her seat, and that's where we find CTV's Natalie Johnson tonight. Natalie.
Hi, Michelle. Well, Chrystia Freeland is arguably an intimidating incumbent, a political powerhouse who played a role in triggering this snap election. University Rosedale has been a red riding since it was first created in 2015. It's been held by Freeland since that time, but she says she takes nothing for granted.
Polling the vote today in her University Rosedale riding, Chrystia Freeland says today's election is the last leg of a very long race.
I'm feeling great. I feel like I have been running a marathon.
A marathon that began back in December when the then Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister dramatically resigned from Justin Trudeau's cabinet, setting in motion the series of events that triggered this election.
Resigning was the hardest political thing I've done in my life. A lot of people were angry with me. Some of my colleagues were. But I knew at that moment it was the right thing to do.
Freeland lost her bid for the federal Liberal leadership, but was welcomed into Mark Carney's cabinet as the party worked to rebuild in a matter of months.
When I see a truly, resurrected Liberal Party with a great new leader, I feel just so happy about where we are.
But she says she does not take her own riding for granted after holding it for a decade.
There is so much progressive support here.
Serena Purdy is looking to steal the seat for the NDP.
I think a lot of people, when I talk to them at the door, they're asking for change. They're concerned about how long we've gone without solving things like the housing crisis, how long we've gone letting things sort of slide into privatization in the healthcare system.
Conservative candidate Liz Gray did not respond to CTV News' request for an interview, though there is no shortage of blue CPC signs here too.
Oh my God, I hope the Conservatives win.
In a riding that includes Rosedale Mansions, U of T, Kensington Market, and more, the issues voters care about run the gamut.
Rent is pretty high down here.
Improve our country's economy.
Mostly dealing with climate change for me.
Childcare and anything to do with family.
Thank you very much.
Freeland says here in the riding and all across the country, the question of Canada itself is on the ballot.
Canadians get it. They get that this is a consequential moment for our country.
A lot of people are fed up, and it is time for change.
As the race to the ballot box comes to a close, the candidates have just a few hours left to seal the deal.
And Freeland said today that the political atmosphere today feels very different than it did back in mid-December when she resigned from Justin Trudeau's cabinet. At that time, she said the Liberals were headed for almost certain defeat, even at risk of losing their official party status. Fast forward 4 or 5 months to today, and the Liberals may well win this election to stay in power. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Another riding to watch is Toronto St. Paul's. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us live with the reasons why. Allison.
This riding actually had a by-election about 10 months ago, and so now voters here are heading back to the polls to pick their next representative and the next federal government. And it was during that by-election that Conservative Don Stewart won the riding, flipping the seat blue for the first time in about 3 decades. So he's seeking to hang on to his seat, one he's only held since June. He's up against a familiar face. Liberal Leslie Church challenged him for the seat and lost in that by-election, but she's back on the ballot and hoping to reclaim this Toronto St. Paul's seat for the Liberals. Bruce Levy is running for the NDP and Shane Phillips is on the ballot for the Greens. So this will be a very interesting seat to watch as the night unfolds. Historically a Liberal stronghold, but then flipping Conservative in the summer when they were surging right across the country. So whether it continues with a national trend or which direction this seat goes, we'll have to wait and see. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Michelle, back to you.
We'll be watching. Thank you, Allison. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he will work with whoever is elected Prime Minister, but he's calling for whichever party wins to do more to support First Nations.
As I was hearing the chief about having to boil your water, like that is absolutely ridiculous, that we have to boil water here in Ontario. But if we create an economic development system that will help our government, but let's get the federal government moving.
The Premier spoke at the annual conference of First Nations Major Projects Coalition in downtown Toronto this morning. Ford says he always complains that Ontario does more for First Nations communities than the federal government.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has weighed in on the election, reiterating his call for Canada to become the 51st state. His post on Truth Social reads in part, "Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power, no more artificially drawn line from many years ago, free access with no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be."
If you have not already voted, there are still a few hours left to cast your ballot. Voting hours are staggered across the country, but in most of Ontario, the polls are open until 9:30 p.m. Make sure to go to your assigned polling station and bring your voter information card. If you don't have it, you will be asked for ID that indicates your identity as well as your address. To vote, you must be a Canadian citizen and at least 18 years old.
And some breaking news tonight. There's a power outage at a polling station in the Beaches. Toronto Hydro says it's impacting just over 2,600 customers in the East End, including Blantyre Public School, where people are voting this evening. At this point, Elections Canada says it's business as usual. And they say while the power is out, there's enough natural light to continue operations. They say if power isn't restored by dark, we'll have to reevaluate whether they can continue. And be sure to stay with CTV News tonight. We're just moments away from results, analysis, and perspective from all across the country. Our election night coverage gets underway at 7 p.m., led by Omar Sachedina and Vashi Capello. And you can watch right here on the main network, CTV News Channel, CP24, and online.
We turn now to efforts to strengthen Ontario courts.
Before government announcing today it intends to introduce legislation aimed at helping the justice system deal with serious offenses. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
With the court system mired in backlogs and staffing shortages, resulting in serious cases being dismissed because they've run out the clock, the provincial government's trying to get things moving.
Any way we can help address backlogs and delays in the Ontario Court of Justice is a better day for victims and their families.
It includes making space for 17 extra judges to work through a backlog of increasingly complex cases, and new legislation
to streamline judicial appointments processes and speed up the appointment of judges to the Ontario Court of Justice.
From the Liberal justice critic, a bit of trepidation.
When we want to make things faster, doesn't mean it's better.
The new process would require the Judicial Appointments Committee consider criteria from the Attorney General when weighing who to pick for those positions. That's revived concerns about potential government overreach.
I'm not going to double down, I'm tripling down now.
The Premier raised eyebrows last year for insisting he needed like-minded judges on the bench.
I'm sick and tired of judges letting these people out on bail. We're going to hire tough judges.
Judges need to be appointed based on merit, not based on their philosophy.
For Collard, that process
is really a legal cornerstone of our democratic system, and it needs to be protected.
Ontario is also setting up the country's first cryptocurrency and cybercrime prosecution team.
Team members provide advice to police at the investigative stage to make sure cases are managed and prosecuted effectively. This is a crucial part of the system because cybercrime cases tend to be large and complex.
Cases that reach into the deepest recesses of the internet.
Human trafficking, cybercurrency payments that are extremely difficult to track, darknet marketplaces that facilitate the sales of illegal firearms and drugs, and digital child abuse.
Crimes committed behind a keyboard with real-world consequences. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Toronto police are investigating a shooting in Scarborough. Shots were fired in the area of Shepherd Avenue and Meadowvale Road around 12:30 this morning. When officers arrived on scene, they found evidence of gunfire, but no injuries have been reported. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
And police are searching for a driver after a stolen vehicle was involved in a crash in Etobicoke. It happened just before 9 p.m. near Kipling and Lakeshore Boulevard. 2 vehicles were damaged, with one striking a building and the other hitting a pole. Police say one of the vehicles was stolen, with the driver taking off on foot. Paramedics say the people in the other vehicle suffered minor injuries.
And one person was taken to hospital following a single vehicle crash in Markham. York Regional Police received a call around 3 p.m. for the crash on Warden Avenue between Elgin Mills and 19th Avenue. A vehicle collided with a tree and rolled over. The driver sustaining serious injuries. The cause of this crash is under investigation.
In York Region, a Girl Guide leader is facing charges in connection with a sexual assault case that dates back to 1998. 64-year-old Karen Spence is charged with 3 counts of sexual assault and 3 counts of sexually exploiting a young person. York Regional Police allege the victim was abused between January of 1998 and September of 2002 when they were under the age of 16. Investigators say Spence was a Girl Guide leader in the Georgina area from 1995 to 2001 and also worked as a youth hockey coach and referee. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
Opening arguments were delivered today as a new sexual assault trial of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team began in London. The charges relate to an alleged encounter that took place in 2018 when many of the team's members were in London for a gala. The court is now hearing from the first witness. All 5 players have pleaded not guilty to sexual assault.
Russia's declared a 3-day ceasefire for the next week in its war with Ukraine. The Kremlin says the 72-hour truce would occur from May 8th to the 10th. It would coincide with the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies in the Second World War. Kyiv responded by saying if Russia truly wants peace, it should halt its attacks immediately. Ukraine's president has said his country would be ready to hold talks once a ceasefire deal has stopped the fighting. The White House reiterated today that U.S. President Donald Trump wants a permanent ceasefire.
The conclave to elect the successor to Pope Francis will begin on May 7th. The date was decided at a meeting of cardinals in Rome today. About 135 of them from around the world are eligible to take part in the secret vote at the Sistine Chapel to elect the new leader of the church. The earliest the conclave could have begun was May 6th, but starting it a day later means cardinals will have a bit more time for talks ahead of the ballot. Pope Francis was laid to rest on Saturday following his passing on Easter Monday.
Here in Ontario, a judge has ordered the Peace Bridge duty-free shop into receivership. The store at this country's second busiest border crossing will continue to operate for now, but a receiver has been appointed to take control of its assets, oversee liquidation, and repay creditors. The Buffalo and Fort Erie Public Bridge Authority claims the shop owes it up to $17 million in unpaid rent going back years. The Royal Bank says over $3 million in debt is outstanding. The Niagara region retailer insists it owes less. Coming up, the cast is in place as Canadians cast their vote. We go behind the curtain as CTV prepares to go live across the country with special election night coverage.
Well, pretty pleasant weather day today, and tomorrow things are heating up. We are talking heat and humidity. Take a look at tomorrow's forecast daytime high here in Toronto. We're anticipating about 24 degrees, feeling closer to 30. Here's the thing, though. We're also looking at a risk of thunderstorms, especially as we make our way into the early part of the afternoon and the evening hours. We're going to have a detailed look at your 7-day forecast. We'll talk about the weekend coming up as well. Stay with us. CTV News will be back in 2 minutes.
The biggest issue, of course, is the threat from the United States, the threat of the tariffs, the challenges in the economy.
The biggest one is affordability for housing. We've been trying to buy a house for 5 years now.
Updating our top stories, today is the day Canadians have their say. Voting is well underway to decide who will run the country for the next 4 years. Ballots are being cast following a 35-day federal election campaign. The polls are open until 9:30 in most of Ontario.
We're all grieving for all the Filipinos.
Remembering the victims of a horrific attack. 11 people were killed when a vehicle drove into a crowd during a celebration of Filipino culture in Vancouver on Saturday. A man was arrested and has been charged. Police say they have had multiple interactions with him involving mental health.
It's so important that we get justice for injured workers. Justice in the form of a fair compensation system that compensates people for their injuries.
A commemoration was held in Toronto on the National Day of Mourning for workers who were killed or seriously injured on the job. The Ontario Federation of Labour wants governments to do more to address workplace dangers, both physically and mentally.
And remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
Canadians are deciding who will lead the country for the next term, and clearly the future of the economy has them concerned. BNN Bloomberg's Marella Fernandez has the results of a new survey.
Worried Canadians are socking away more money in their emergency funds. A survey by EQ Bank looked at how Canadians are managing the economic uncertainty. More than half say they have been topping up their emergency account over the past 3 months. Another 45% say they are holding off on big buys. Domino's Pizza reported a drop in U.S. sales in its first quarter. Recession fears in February and March may have kept consumers from eating out. Domino's is the world's largest pizza chain. Shares in the company fell on the news today in early trading, but rebounded by the end of the day. Fast fashion online retailer Shein is dramatically raising prices on its American site. The top 100 products have gone up an average of 51%. The e-commerce giant is passing on the cost of Trump's 120% tariff on Chinese goods. Here's how the trading day ended. The Canadian dollar moved up to 72.36. West Texas Intermediate is down almost $1 to 62.05. Our fix on Western Canadian Select has it up to 52.50. And the TSX is up 88 points, landing at 24,798. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
And a note for subway riders, there is a service disruption to be aware of this week. Starting today, lasting through Friday, service on Line 2 between Jane and Ossington will end at 11 p.m. The early closure is to accommodate track work in the area. Shuttle buses will run in place of trains. Runnymede, High Park, Lansdowne, and Dufferin stations will all be closed. All other stations will be open for customers to purchase fares and transfer to bus routes.
Still to come, gearing up for Game 5. The Maple Leafs hit the ice this morning to prepare for a potential series clincher tomorrow. What they're saying about the prospect of advancing in the playoffs after the break. All right, time now for a check on the forecast. And we know that there's going to be, I guess, a big change tomorrow, politically, of course, no matter what, but also with the weather.
Definitely. Weather-wise, we got rain coming, but can we just enjoy today? Yesterday was wonderful. Today, even warmer, the bright sunshine. This is how you end the month of April.
I really can't think of better voting conditions for anybody looking to get outside and cast their ballot. You could walk to the polling station if you wanted to. We climbed into the 20s this afternoon in the city of Toronto. Beautiful sunshine as well. And here's another sign that spring is certainly here. Check this out. The cherry blossoms are blooming. This is at the University of Toronto, just outside Robarts Library. Great opportunity this week to head on down and check them out if you'd like to. Only tomorrow we do have a little bit of active weather in the forecast. It's not a guarantee, but it's looking like maybe our best chance so far this spring of perhaps encountering some severe thunderstorms. Let's first start, though, with today. Voting conditions quite favorable in many different parts of our country, but especially around the Great Lakes and southern Quebec. We are, however, watching a system, a disturbance, a cold front specifically, that could shake things up a little bit for us into the day tomorrow. We have a chance of showers morning, afternoon, and evening. Risk of thunderstorms morning and afternoon, but the best opportunity for us to see some active weather is going to come late afternoon and early evening. So there's tomorrow morning. Certainly an increase in cloud cover around the GTA and a little more active north of here. Into the afternoon, might start to see a few showers pop up around the Golden Horseshoe. I'm going to pause this around the dinner hour, perhaps as early as 5 p.m. and then continuing right through to about 8 p.m. Risk of thunderstorms. And with these ones, we could encounter very strong winds, heavy downpours, of course, thunder and lightning, maybe some small hail. And in this type of setup, can't rule out the possibility of maybe an isolated tornado, but the risk of that happening is low. Clearing as we make our way into the day. For Wednesday, we're going to enjoy beautiful sunshine, but it will be cooler. I'm going to talk about the temperatures in just a moment. Early heads up for Thursday, the first day of May. We're getting into some shower activity. So how much rain? This is all dependent on whether or not we get thunderstorms. If we do, you can expect those numbers to be higher. Now we are in for some summertime heat as we make our way into the day tomorrow. Warm air mass on the way. Overnight tonight, we're at a low of 12, which as you can see is warmer than normal. 6 is the average overnight low this time of year. And then tomorrow, 24 degrees for the high, Humidex 29. Some cities in southwestern Ontario are going to hit 30 for the first time this season. But let's talk about the cool down that comes in the wake of that cold front, perhaps after some thunderstorms. We go from 24 degrees down to +2 for the overnight low. That's likely what we're going to be waking up to early Wednesday morning. But again, we will have the sunshine Thursday and Friday. It becomes a bit more active. Showers expected, cooler conditions right into the early part of next weekend. Looks like we're going to return to mostly sunny skies by the time we hit next Sunday. That's your look at the weather for now. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, the next chapter of our country's political future is set to unfold tonight, and CTV News is ready to document every moment. It's election night, and our team of journalists have been preparing to bring you the fastest and most accurate results, with coverage designed to give you all the information you need. CTV's Camille Karamali has a peek behind the curtain to see how it's all put together.
3, 2.
The countdown is on.
Rehearsal.
After weeks of campaigning,
Here we go.
It all comes down to this.
We're live right across the country.
Election night. And here is where Canadians will see all the twists and turns unfold.
Well, I think it's going to be a night of high political drama. They always say elections are the Olympics of news.
Chief anchor Omar Sachedina and chief political correspondent Vashi Kapelos will guide Canadians through one of the most critical elections of our time.
What kind of will set us apart is the type of analysis that our panelist is going to deliver. We have like
top-notch people who have run parties, who have been cabinet ministers.
That team of experts will fill the House for wall-to-wall coverage.
Every seat in this room is going to be filled with, again, some of Canada's top political minds.
Most of the election coverage taking place here, but plenty of action happening elsewhere in the CTV studios. I want you to come with me where we'll see the nerve center for election night called the Power Board, where you'll see live election results and analysis as it comes in.
We'll also be taking a closer look at specific ridings. What were the key issues in those ridings? How do those issues translate into votes?
On television, radio,
welcome to the Breaking News Center,
and online, where the CTV News digital team will be updating every riding across the country.
There's a feature where you can look up your postal code and find out how the numbers are looking in your specific riding.
And with an election this close, CTV's decision desk will be a hotbed of action, looking at the votes from each riding before making a carefully calculated call.
And we're doing all that, in real time as the votes come in.
But the unpredictability is far from over.
What is predictable is that millions of Canadians will cast their ballots, counting on us to tell you what Canada decides. Kamel Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
Can't wait to see what happens. And after the break, a traveling exhibit lands in Yorkville. Andy Warhol, Factory Made, features some of his most iconic works. Over a span of 3 decades, we'll have a sneak peek just ahead. Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs will get another shot at advancing to the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That happens tomorrow night.
They were unable to sweep the Senators over the weekend. That would have clinched them a spot, but the team hit the ice for practice today. And as CTV's Sean Leathong reports, they're focused on Game 5.
A day off today has Leafs players looking towards another chance at a series clincher, and some fans here sending positivity.
What's going to happen tomorrow?
So tomorrow we're going to probably win it. Very optimistic we're going to win this. Positivity, hands down, all the way.
After an upbeat skate at the Ford Performance Center, players spoke about what's needed to take Game 5 and the series.
We're just going to have to make sure that we go up another level. Their desperation is obviously going to be very high as well.
When you have a team, fighting for their lives, you're not getting a more desperate team than that. So it's one of those things where in order to beat that team, you have to match that.
Just to be aggressive, and obviously I think really go out there and enjoy it, have some fun with being an opportunity to close it out at home.
In Game 4, the Leafs were one shot away from ending the series in overtime, but the Senators were able to send it back to Toronto for Game 5. This after the Leafs failed to score on a 4-minute power play in overtime.
Hey, we moved on from it. We got to focus on tomorrow. I can't look back in the past. That's over with now.
With an extra day off in between games, a notable absence on the ice, Captain Austin Matthews, but the team says he's resting and will play tomorrow. And tomorrow will be a chance to win a series in front of their home crowd, something the Leafs haven't done in 21 years.
The building's been rocking the first 2 games, so I'm very excited to hear it tomorrow night, and we just got to make sure we embrace the moment and be ready for it.
And despite being just one shot away from ending the series in Game 4, the Leafs' second attempt of closing out this one will go at 7 o'clock tomorrow, Scotiabank Arena. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
The Blue Jays had the day off after dropping both games in a doubleheader against the Yankees.
To right center field, a long run for Springer, and he's not going to get there. It's off the wall on the fly, and 3 runs will score on the double.
The Jays got knocked around in Game 1, giving up 6 runs in the 3rd inning. They ended up losing the game 11-2.
Line drive left center. This will get a run home. Chisholm in to score. Dominguez into second with a double. It is 3-1.
The team didn't perform much better in Game 2, going on to lose 5-1. The Jays have today off before beginning a series with the Boston Red Sox at Rogers Center tomorrow.
The president of the Canadian Olympic Committee has been re-elected to a 4th term. Tricia Smith received unanimous support during the organization's annual session meeting yesterday. The 4-time Olympic rower says she is incredibly honored and is looking forward to the next 4 years. Smith was also re-elected in 2017 and 2021 and is a member of the International Olympic Committee. She won a silver medal for Canada at the 1984 Los Angeles Games.
He's considered one of the original pop artists. Now, a free art exhibit in the city is showcasing the works of Andy Warhol. And today, CTV's Jessica Smith got a first-hand look.
A mix of bright colors, famous faces, and iconic images. This is the theme behind a Toronto art exhibition featuring some of the famous works of Andy Warhol.
It gives people in Toronto an opportunity to actually come and visit the gallery for free and get to appreciate quite a substantial amount of works by Andy Warhol.
The exhibition, titled Andy Warhol Factory Made, introduces audiences to over 50 prolific pieces and even one of the wigs from the artist.
It's really rare to be able to present so many artworks by such an icon like Andy Warhol.
Nestled in Toronto's Yorkville neighborhood, the Tagliatelle Galleries is a home for works of both well-known and upcoming artists from here in Canada and around the world.
And I think what makes our gallery interesting is that we have a DNA that is quite complex and quite diverse.
The gallery is free to attend, making the art featured inside accessible for all.
Part of the responsibility that we have as a cultural business is to make sure that the exhibitions that we put together can be celebrated by everyone in Toronto.
And a way to introduce the next generation to how art can be a form of learning and self-expression.
Because the art could show how you're feeling.
The Andy Warhol Factory Made exhibition ends May 1st. Up next for the gallery is a feature by a Canadian artist named Ben Johnson, beginning on May 29th. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
7 musical acts make up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025. 80s pop icon Cyndi Lauper is among those being honored this year. She's joined by a diverse group of artists, including Outkast, Soundgarden, The White Stripes, Joe Cocker, and Chubby Checker. The induction ceremony will take place in Los Angeles in November. Musicians are eligible for nomination if it's been at least 25 years since the release of their first commercial recording.
Just ahead, a heavy metal band leaves a heavy present. Rock legends Metallica make a major monetary donation to the Daily Bread Food Bank after their Toronto show. Stay with us.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special Election Day shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Now, they may be a heavy metal band, but it seems Metallica has a soft spot for helping others.
The longtime rockers performed 2 sold-out shows, thrilling fans in Toronto last week. And as CTV's Mike Walker reports, they've also made a lasting impact with at least one local charity.
After performing 2 sold-out shows at the Rogers Centre, heavy metal legends Metallica giving back to the Daily Bread Food Bank with a $40,000 donation.
We were totally caught by surprise. For us, it's incredible.
The Daily Bread CEO says the generous donation means 1 meal will be provided for every dollar donated.
40,000 meals. I mean, it's substantive, it's impactful, and it's appreciated.
Food bank use is at an all-time high.
Last month, we served about 330,000, and pre-pandemic, that number was about 60,000. So the city is hurting.
The donation was made through Metallica's All Within My Hands Foundation, which has been supporting charities since 2017. The director of philanthropy stating, learning that there is widespread food insecurity in Toronto reminds us just how many people are faced with making tough decisions and need assistance. We are thankful Daily Bread is there to bridge the gap for so many families. This is the second time Metallica has donated to the food bank. Back in 2016, the band played a benefit concert at the Opera House. All the proceeds from that concert were donated to the food bank. Fans were also encouraged to bring non-perishable food items.
There's always people that need food.
Metallica, the latest artist to support the food bank, which has benefited in the past from Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. Hetherington hoping Metallica's generosity will fuel others to support the food bank.
When you're on top, you need to show leadership. And when you show that leadership and community building, nothing else matters.
When the need is greater than ever. Mike Walker, CTV News.
We're just a few hours away from learning what the future leadership of our country will look like.
It is election night in Canada, the results of more than a month of campaigning and vying for your vote. And there is still time to cast your ballot. The polls are open until 9:30 p.m. in most of Ontario. You should bring your voter information card with you to make sure the process is a little easier. Voters will also be asked for ID that indicates their identity and address. And more details on where and how to vote can be found at elections.ca. And be sure to stay with CTV News tonight. We are just moments away from results, analysis, and perspective from all across our beautiful country. Our election night coverage gets underway at 7 p.m., led by Omar Sachedina and Vashi Kapelos. And you can watch right here on the main network, CTV News channel, CP24, and online.
And if you are heading out to vote tonight, the weather is cooperating.
All is calm, all is clear, all is quiet. Can't quite say the same for tomorrow, so enjoy this while we have it. Through this evening, lots of sunshine, clear conditions, calm winds, and then overnight tonight, we're going to remain above seasonal. So here's a look at your forecast. Lows, 12, and the average overnight low this time of year is 6 in the city of Toronto. Waking up tomorrow morning, there is going to be a little more cloud cover than what we experienced today. However, it's also going to be quite mild. Look at 9 a.m. Temperature already close to 20 degrees. And once again, we're forecasting highs in the mid-20s across southern Ontario, feeling closer to 30. Now, there is potential for it to get quite active with the arrival of a system, and the cold front slicing through is going to make things a little bit active, especially in the afternoon and the early part of tomorrow evening. Then the temperature plummets behind that front. 2 degrees for the low. Wednesday, we're into sunshine, but it is noticeably cooler. Bring the umbrella with you for Thursday and Friday, the early days of May. Going to be unsettled, and then we're cooler still into the early part of next weekend. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, that's it for this newscast, but stay with us. CTV's election coverage with Omar Sachedina and Vashi Kapelos begins right after this newscast.
You can also follow all the headlines and developments with Canada's vote on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching.